Hi, I'm Congressman Steve King, and I wanted to come to you today and talk to you about the immigration issue in this country, and especially about DACA, the Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals, which was an unconstitutional manufactured policy by Barack Obama, who 22 times said it's unconstitutional. He didn't have the constitutional authority to create it, but he did anyway. And President Trump has said on the day that he announced his campaign for presidency, which was June 16th of 2015, that he would end DACA on his first day. We expected that that would happen on January 20th, 2017, excuse me. And we went along for weeks believing that he had just stopped it and didn't say anything, but instead they were still, the inertia of the program was going on. They were still signing up new DACA recipients, still extending existing permits. So this concerns me a great deal. And it concerns me because as far back as 1986, when Ronald Reagan signed the Amnesty Act of 1986, I was very frustrated on that day. I believed he would veto it because he understood the value of the rule of law, and that granting amnesty rewards lawbreakers, it destroys the rule of law, and the effort to restore that rule of law, it is so long and so hard, but we're on the cusp of being able to restore the rule of law today if President Trump ends DACA, ends the unconstitutional policy that's there. And the circumstances instead are that I believe that the president is negotiating against himself. He served up DACA and said, here it is, Congress, you take DACA and solve that problem. Meanwhile, I'm not going to sign a DACA bill unless he said I'm not going to sign it unless I get some of these things, or maybe even many of these things, with regard to border security and with regard to internal security, domestic security, and some new laws on that. I appreciate the things the president has asked for and has exchanged for a DACA solution. We have too many people in this Congress who lead with their heart instead of their head. And of course they jumped on that right away, and they began to serve up DACA and say we're going to pass DACA and send it to the president's desk. And I'm opposed to it. Legalizing people that are here illegally is amnesty. And to grant amnesty, amnesty is a pardon for immigration lawbreakers, coupled with, in this case, the reward of the objective of their crime. If we do that, we destroy the rule of law, and we destroy the opportunity to restore it in our lifetimes. So it's that important, and it's always been the center of this issue. And I'm speaking to the American people and to President Trump, whom I just got off the phone with a few minutes ago, and I appreciate the conversation, Mr. President. I appreciate the phone call. And we had a healthy conversation, and there's much to be thrilled about, particularly the tax bill and the foreign policy and all of the things that have been done and all the things that we now can do, because our economy will be stimulated. It will be sustainable growth. But back to the middle of this, I want to restore the respect for the rule of law. And so I'd suggest this. The president has a pretty good list of things that he'd like to see accomplished in exchange for a legalization of DACA recipients. I don't believe they should be legalized. And instead, I think there's a much better purpose for the DACA recipients. But the president has said that he wants 370 more prosecuting attorneys. I believe was the number, was it? No, excuse me, it was 1,000 attorneys to work this, and 370 more judges, 10,000 more ICE agents, which we do need 10,000 more ICE agents. We passed some of that legislation out of the Judiciary Committee. He'd like to see E-Verify made permanent. I've got a better proposal for that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And build a wall and secure our border and pass a number of laws in the sanctuary cities. That happens to be my legislation. It passed off the floor of the House in July, and it's sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk along with Kate's law, along with Sarah's law. The president's asking for all of that, and I think it's right. I support all of those things, except I'd put a little bit more onto the table. And I would put onto the table birthright citizenship. I just got an email today that shows that the Chinese are traveling into the Northern Marianas, and they're having babies there faster than American natives are, so that they can, and every little baby is a little American citizen. That's got to stop. We can't be handing out citizenship like candy to the new mothers that are moving into America temporarily to have their babies take their birth certificate and the baby and go back to China or wherever they're coming from. There is an entire industry created over birthright citizenship. Somewhere between 340,000 and 750,000 babies a year are born in America that get automatic citizenship today. Unconstitutionally, I will argue. We only need to pass a law to ban the practice of granting automatic citizenship to babies born to illegals in America. I have that bill, and we need to move that legislation to put an end to that. Think of it, 750,000 babies granted automatic citizenship. That's the number of DACA recipients that we're talking about as well. We need to control our borders. We need to protect our sovereignty. The next thing we need to do is I would take the E-Verify mandatory that many people support in this Congress, and instead I would roll it into the New IDEA Act. The New IDEA Act is this. It clarifies that wages and benefits paid to illegals are not tax deductible. And it directs the IRS then to run the I-9 information, the identifying information of the employees of a company that they are auditing through E-Verify. We give the employer safe harbor if they use E-Verify. But if they've got illegals working for them, the IRS then says, sorry, if you paid $1 million in wages to illegals, that's not a business expense for you. It's taxable income instead. And that turns your $10 an hour illegal into about a $16 an hour illegal. And that's for 1 year. But there is a 6-year cumulative statute of limitations. So this is an enforcement practice. It's out there always. And it's been scored by CIS at $254 billion in revenue to the federal government. So this is a revenue generator that takes us closer to getting back in the black. That's some of the things that we need to do. And another piece that is distorting America is what we do with the census. In the census, we go out and count the people. Well, the Constitution says count the people, and that's consistent. But we're counting people, not citizens, and when we redistrict or reapportion for the congressional districts across America, we end up with the illegals counted, and so there are congressional districts that have just tens of thousands of illegals in them, and they get representation in Congress just like people do who don't vote. But we need to be counting citizens instead of people for the purposes of redistricting. That's going to take at a minimum a statute, and it may take a constitutional amendment. And so on this upcoming census, I want to count separately the citizens separate from the non-citizens, the lawfully present Americans separate from the illegal aliens that are here, so America can see how bad this is. We had a hearing on this several years ago, and there would be between 9 and 11 congressional seats in America that would be moved from states like Florida, Texas, California, on around to states like Utah, Indiana, Iowa to get a congressional seat back too. And the people that vote in those states are more likely to vote in rule of law, common sense, Constitution, American exceptionalism than the newly arriving illegal immigrants that are counted in districts like Maxine Waters, who only needs about 40,000 votes to get reelected in her district, and it takes me over 120,000 in mine because hers is loaded with illegals and mine only has a few. So that's some of the things that are important that we move on immigration. On top of that, we need to pass English as the official language here in the United States of America. It is, I went through this some years ago, and I checked every country, and United States, according to the World Book at the time, was the only country in the world that didn't have at least one official language. And so we sit here with English as our common language. It is a language of success. It's a language of prosperity. It's a language of opportunity. But we don't have it established as a language in the United States of America. And so now we provide interpreters throughout the government, all the way down to the lowest levels where there's a single dollar of federal tax dollars involved. And it's costing us billions of dollars to provide interpreters. And it's a discouragement for people to assimilate into this broader American culture. And by the way, assimilation has become a dirty word. You've got the left working against assimilation these days, and they have done so for 20 or 30 or more years. America needs to come together. The different origins of the American people, their continents, their countries, their nationalities, their ethnicities, has come together successfully in America, but only when we strongly encouraged, and it was part of our culture, to assimilate them into the American culture, the American civilization. But now America is being balkanized by the left, who wants to divide us rather than unite us. We need to bring back assimilation. English as the official language is one of the tools to do that. We need to pass the new IDEA Act, the new Illegal Deduction Elimination Act, so that employers will have a strong discouragement out of fear of the IRS to clean up their workforce and end this practice of automatic citizenship to babies that are born when both parents are illegal. And I'll add all of that to the president's agenda, and then let's see what the Democrats do. Let's see if they want to clean up this country and secure our borders, restore our sovereignty, restore the respect for the rule of law. Let's see if they want to do that. I don't think they do. I think they want to have this agenda for political purposes, and that's why they have always been on the side of supporting illegal aliens. Another member of Congress said to me just yesterday, if 95% of the illegals coming into America, when they did step up to the polls to vote, when that time came, if they voted for Republicans instead of Democrats, he said the Democrats would have built a wall on the southern border 20 years ago. I think he's right. These are some of the changes I would make, but I'm opposed to DACA. I think it just needs to end, because in doing so, we're restoring the rule of law. And Mr. President, you're a president that's on the path of being able to keep every single campaign promise. You've kept many of them. It's a long list. And those of us who have supported you are exhilarated at the progress that's been made. But right now, there are only two of them out there that aren't actually being kept. One of them is to end and repeal Obamacare. And that's not your fault, at least not in a big way. It's Congress couldn't get this done so far. But America knows that you pushed that very, very hard, and you're willing to go back to it again. But when it comes to ending DACA, you can do that with a stroke of a pen, and that needs to happen. We need to end DACA, restore the respect for the rule of law, lay out this agenda for where America needs to go on immigration, build the wall, 10,000 ICE agents, 1,000 new attorneys, 370 judges, Kate's Law, Sarah's Law, sanctuary cities. Get all of this done, and America can be a wholesome nation again, in a position to take advantage of the economic development that will surely come because of the tax bill that you just signed. Thank you all very much. God bless you all, and have a Merry Christmas.